Space Dandy Season 2, Episode 9, We're All Fools, so let's all dance, baby. Definitely a hilarious episode. It's really the third in line. It's another really musical based episode. It wasn't in the forefront, really. It was more like last week's episode where you notice the songs because they're, of course, a part of the story. And the episode even ended with its own unique story. It wasn't the same ending that we had. But I definitely enjoyed this episode. I knew it was going to be a really silly one. Last week we had a pretty serious, sort of spiritual episode, and based on the preview for this one, it was just knowing that it was like a disco dance type of thing. I automatically knew it's going to be a really silly episode, and it ended up being one of those really, really crazy episodes where it almost just like makes a whole new timeline once again, where the characters kind of just die off out of nowhere at the end of the episode, and then next week it's just going to be like they're alive again. But I really loved the episode. I enjoyed all the songs in it. Um, I think my favorite song, oddly enough, was the one that actually played in the beginning when Danny was kind of dreaming about the guy who ended up just being like Tan Travolta, which I thought was a really funny reference. I didn't expect that when they named the planet Greece. I just thought it was going to be like just a random disco guy, but they just made the reference even better when they named him that. But I like that song the most actually because I just like the way it sounded. I really like the beat in the beginning, but they don't actually play that song except for in the very beginning, which I thought kind of sucked. I was hoping we'd get a full version, but I did enjoy the song that played at the end as well, and like the other songs that were in the episode. But I love this episode. It was really silly. They had a ton of random stuff. Like they had the reference to Greece, the planet or satellite Greece, the character Tan Travolta. They even had a really weird reference to a woman, Agnes Lum. I never heard of her, so I actually did look her up to see if that was a real person when they had like the collection and the guy was trying to pawn it off on Dandy to get him to participate. She is an actual person, so that was something that I found actually pretty interesting because I was like, did they make this up or is that a real person? But that's an actual person, so you can look her up. She is a model. But love the episode. It was funny them going to get all this money and they get to the planet. They're all excited and stuff. And they had that really weird scene. I thought it was kind of silly that they did this, but it was like they went from like the galaxy all the way to the planet. For some reason, they like named every little step along the way, which I just thought was really funny. But them getting to the planet and it's abandoned and stuff, and they go into the record shop, which I thought was gonna actually play some importance. I thought the guy that was in there playing the guitar was gonna be in the dance competition, and he was just in that part to go into another dimension. I thought that scene was so funny. Like Meow's reaction to that, I thought was really really funny. I really enjoyed that scene. And then Danny, of course, buys the record, which does come into play later in the episode. But when they focused on the guy and how he went into the alternate dimension and stuff, I really thought he was gonna come back into the episode, but it was really just about them buying the record that actually does speed up time, which was ultimately how they all pretty much die and turn into like dancing energy at the end of the episode. But I thought it was really funny. The Tom Travolta character coming in was really good, and everyone was all excited because he comes in. He's got the dancing rings, he got the lights going off and the music, and he's just dancing like crazy. And everyone's talking about how attractive he is and stuff. And me, I was like, I don't go that way, but yeah, I have to agree. I thought that was a funny scene too. We got to see a bit of QT and Meow, which I really enjoyed. I love getting more of their characters, and I feel like this season we haven't really had that too much. We have pretty much the same amount we normally get there. Of course, the side characters, so they have their parts here and there. They have their dancing moment. They had their little moment like they did. Like last week, they really weren't in it too much, but before that, in the rock episode, they had like their little moment where they'd been practicing and stuff, and Johnny asked them like, "Can you guys keep up with the song?" And then they just like QT destroys the drums and Meow's on bass, and it's like it's cool to have those little moments where it really focuses on QT and Meow. So I really love more of those moments. We got one in this, like I said, them dancing together and Meow reminding me of like the season premiere this season with this Michael Jackson Danny. It made me think of that when he was dancing like Michael Jackson. But I enjoyed that scene. They had all the different characters dancing and stuff. Um, Definitely enjoyable. I love the old guy that Dandy meets, the one who tries to like put Dandy as the fake dance Indian. I love that guy. I thought he was a funny character, like him trying to give Dandy the collection, and then he like puts his hand over his wife's mouth and he's like, do we have a deal or do I have to throw my wife in too and stuff. They had moments also where the animation changed. One moment was on the old guy when Tom Travolta showed up and they kind of did the black and white thing. They did that on Dandy really early on in the episode, and they did it pretty much every time they showed the old guy's mom because she was like almost dead, and every time they showed her, they had like a different animation style. So the animation changed at certain moments, but it wasn't different like it normally is. Excuse me, throughout the entire episode. But I definitely enjoyed this one. It was really funny. Enjoyed the music. We got to see Dandy dancing, and then he danced so hard with the other guy that they combined with the actual Dancinians, and then they just burst into energy. And I guess that leads to like the last point of my review, which is a really small portion of the episode. But the Global Empire was in this one in their tiny little, almost insignificant scenes, like they have in almost every episode. But they did something in this one that was pretty unique to me. And it started off, simple. They're just doing whatever they randomly do. The assistant was feeling down in his luck, so he wanted to take a vacation. And when they get to the end and they see the Dancinians and they see the light show and all that stuff, the assistant kind of tears up and he feels good. But when they're about to die, the main guy references the fact that they're facing certain annihilation again. And it was almost like they died before. Like he knew that they've died, and that was almost like a weird reference to the fact that they die a lot in some of the episodes, just like Dandy does in a lot of random episodes. Like the characters, whether they're good guys or bad guys who don't really get to do anything bad, they die off in certain episodes, and in this one he referenced that, and I thought that was really interesting. And it kind of goes back to what I said in the beginning, where this was one of those episodes where they have like all these sort of branching timelines. Like even the very first episode, they get Meow, which is like the one thing that's really stayed the same from episode one. So it's almost like that was some sort of main timeline, and then they went and they died, so that was a branching path, and then they kept going until they became zombies, which, and I thought about this before I did the review. I thought about this yesterday actually because I was just wondering, like, with this being such a silly episode, I wonder if it's going to be another one of the crazy ones where it makes another timeline, which it did. And I thought about the zombie one because they died, and so it seemed like that was another branching path. But I thought about an episode recently, which I believe was the High School Musical type of episode. And Meow mentioned like Danny hasn't been like this since he was a zombie, so it's almost like that was on the main path, I guess, if you want to pick like timelines or whatever. But this is just one of those episodes, like when they reference the fact that they died before, it brought that all up again. Like they have all these sort of branching timelines where there's one main timeline, which I guess does start in the first episode because they do have Meow throughout each episode. So that's like the one thing that happened that carried over from each episode. But whenever they go off and die, it's like that's just an alternate ending to the series, and then next week is like that didn't happen, so they went this way instead. But overall, love the episode, love the ending. Just them dancing, being little figures and dancing as energy, I thought was funny. The actual time warp thing that happened when they played the record, I thought was pretty funny. Them all getting super old, and then when Danny tried to play it backwards to save everybody, it went too far and they became babies. QT turned into just a vacuum. Meow actually became sperm, which I thought was really funny. That was just really silly to me. Like he just flat out he turned into sperm and everyone was a baby. So I guess it just showed the age difference there. But I thought that was really silly that they did that. But loved the episode. Thought it was cool. Thought the animation was good on them dancing. The Tom Travolta character was really funny, and then of course the little competition they had at the end was really silly too. And they're just like dancing with each other. They basically turned into energy. They were like hitting each other's butts when they were dancing, which was funny, and they were singing together. Um, oh, Dandy dancing to like the CD when it was like a musical song. That was funny when he actually hit that really high pitched note. I had to rewind that part because I thought that was just really funny. I wasn't expecting that, but that was a good part. And the guy, when he first tried to convince Dandy to join the competition, when Dandy turned around and he saw his butt and he was just like grabbing his butt, that was a really funny scene too. But I love the episode. Of course, comment below. Let me know what you guys thought about it. Your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And we've had a lot of musical episodes lately, or at least music has been a focus, at least in some point of the episode. The last three episodes have had unique song endings. But I already asked like favorite songs and stuff because we've done that a lot this season. So they're really catching up to the unique amount of songs that they had last season. But what's your favorite dancing dandy? Because we got multiple versions of dandy dancing this season so far, and I think it's way more than we had last season. We've had like the High School Musical version, we've had the disco version, and it was almost. I thought this was gonna be like the '50s version because it was Grease, Planet Grease, and Tom Travolta, but it was more disco than anything. So I guess sort of the High School Musical was still really like the '50s version type of dancing, but we had the '50s version, we've had disco version in this one, and we had the rocker version as well, and we've had other versions. I believe we had other versions in season one. But what's your favorite dancing dandy? Mine, if I had to pick, would definitely be the rocker version, and that's just because the show that they had was really really funny to me. And like Dandy, when he was just dancing on the mic and like he had his shirt pulled up and stuff, I thought that was so over the top, and it was just a really funny scene. Plus he was competing with Johnny to just constantly do something crazier and crazier, and it just resulted in funnier and funnier stuff, especially when he shot the gun off by accident and set his hair on fire. So I'd have to pick the rock version as my favorite dancing dandy. But what's your favorite dancing dandy? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.